See. Yeah, Ramacandra Kaviraj. Yes, Riyansh.
Prabhuji, can I recite one shloka?
Maybe towards the end. Yeah, hold on to that shloka, okay? Hold on to that shloka. Let me just
Okay, Prabhuji.
this before we run out of time. So Ramachandra Kaviraj, very, very interesting devotee. He came after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not much after, a little bit after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for the spiritual world. His father's name was Chiranjeev Sena. His mother's name is Sri Sunanda. They lived in a village called Shikhanda. Many devotees resided in Shikhanda. And they had another son who's Govind Prabhu. So there was Ramachandra and Govind, who were brothers of these parents. Chiranjeev Sen was a doctor, Vedya, and he was also a great devotee of the Lord. He was a personal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahabhagwat. And the devotees of Shikhanda, headed by Narahari, Sakarakara, Thakur, who we've talked about before, they all had great affection for Chiranjeev. And Mukunda Das, who we've talked about, Narahari, we've talked about, Shri Raghunandan, we talked about, they all lived in Shikhanda. So very interesting place. Ramachandra Kaviraj was especially enthusiastic, earnest, persevering, energetic, intelligent, and beautiful. Now, his maternal grandfather was Damodar Kaviraj, a poet, a great poet, but he was a worshipper of Durga Mata or Shiva, and he was initiated in that tradition. So after the passing away of Chiranjeev, Ramachandra and Govind, they went to live in the place of their grandfather in Kumaranagar. And they gradually also became infected with this, the anti-devotional philosophy, Shaktaism. Even though their father was a great Mahabhagavad devotee and personal associate of Mahaprabhu. So this is the problem with association. Even if you have great lineage, you've got to be really careful. Association can destroy somebody. Ramachandra, however, became doctor, and he gradually became famous as a poet, like his grandfather. He was very handsome, intelligent, and he also got married to Ratanala. Now, on the day of the marriage, when they were coming back home in a palanquin with his bride, the procession passed Srinivasacharya's house. Now, Srinivasacharya was, I think, a disciple of, was it Jiva Goswami? I can't remember. But he, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shyamananda, three great devotees who did wonderful work distributing the Goswami's books. They were the first Sankirtan party. And Srinivas was one of those devotees, very, very important personality in our line. So Ramachandra saw the Acharya in the veranda of his house and discussing Krishna Katha, and he became enamored. Simply by seeing him, he got a strange new emotion in his heart. It was like he met a great friend, dear friend after a long time. And similarly, Srinivas, when he saw Ramachandra seated in the palanquin, he was also wondering, who is that? What is his name? Which Varna does he belong to? Where does he reside? And the people who were sitting with Srinivas told him he's a great scholar, poet named Ramachandra. He's a doctor as well, resides in Kumaranagar. So Srinivas, he was pleased. And he simply smiled. After a short while, the procession reached home, and everybody was very happy to meet the divine couple. Now, however, Ramachandra's mind was focused on what he saw in Jagigram, where Srinivas was. He couldn't get it out of his mind. So all night he was thinking about it. And after the night passed, he actually went to Gajigram, and he stayed the night there at somebody's home. And in the morning, he went to Srinivas's home and he paid his obeisances to Srinivas. And similarly, Srinivas had been thinking continuously of Ramacandra as well since he saw him. So they both embraced, and Srinivas said to him, birth after birth, you are my most dearmost friend. In the same way that the Lord caused my meeting with Narottam Das at Vrindavan, he's also reunited me with another friend. That's you. So this was really fantastic for Ramacandra, because this cured him of his going towards Shakti philosophy, the Durga Mata's philosophy. So Ramacandra stayed with Srinivas Acharya and studied the literatures of the six Goswamis under his tutorship. Srinivas was extremely pleased to see his gentle and polite behavior and his deeply spiritual nature. On the next auspicious day, he initiated Ramacandra with the Radha Krishna mantra, the Maha Mantra. And it's described that Srinivas had many disciples, and 8 of them were famous poets, and Ramacandra was one of them. So after some time, Ramacandra returned to his home, and I think he went there with his wife initially, actually. So when the Shaktas, the Durga Mata followers, they saw that he was initiated in the Vaishnava village, because they saw the Kanti Mala, they saw him chanting Hare Krishna, they became very upset. However, Ramacandra was undaunted. He had tilak on his body in 12 places, japa mala in his hand. He sat down in front of them, began to chant the holy names. One day, Ramacandra was proceeding to his house after having kirtan, after taking his bath, his neighbors called him, Kaviraj, without worshipping Lord Shiva, how is it that you are going home? Your grandfather was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. Have you given up Lord Shiva's worship? So Ramacandra replied, Lord Shiva and Brahma are incarnations of 2 of material modes created by Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself is the source of all incarnations. Therefore, by worshipping Krishna, everyone's worship is performed. Just as by watering the roots of a tree, all the leaves and branches become nourished. Prahlad, Dhruv, Vibhishan, and others were dear devotees of Krishna. Lord Shiva and Brahma, therefore, were naturally favorably disposed to them, whereas Ravan, Kumbhakaran, Banasur, and other demons were only devotees of Shiva and not devotees of Krishna. Thus, their ultimate end was to simply be destroyed. The Shastras say that Brahma was able to create this world due to having successfully worshipped Vishnu. Similarly, Shiva became qualified to invoke auspiciousness in this world due to having received the footwash water of Lord Vishnu, Ganga, on his head. Having heard these various statements from the Shastras, those scholars remained speechless and defeated. Although married, Ramacandra and his wife, Ratnala, had no children, they had no material attachments. They were always engaged in the loving service of the Lord. Eventually, Ramacandra became very anxious to have darshan of Vrindavan and the Goswamis there. So he set out for Vrindavan after seeking permission from the devotees. After passing through Gaya, Kashi, Prayag, he finally arrived at Mathura. There he took bath at Vishramghat, that's in Mathura. After taking darshan of Adikeshav temple, he started for Vrindavan. At this time, his guru Srinivas Acharya was present in Vrindavan. Ramacandra offered his prostrated obeisances at the lotus feet of his guru and Jiva Goswami and conveyed the good news of the devotees from Gauda Desh, that's Bengal. As ordered by Jiva Goswami, Ramacandra took darshan of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan. These deities will come up again and again because these are very important deities. And Sanatana Goswami's Samadhi. Then he offered his respects to Gopal Bhatt, Lokanath, and Bhugarbha Goswami, who were very pleased with him and who offered him their benedictions. Hearing some of the samples of his great poetic ability, everyone headed by Jiva Goswami decided to present him with the title Kaviraj. Kavi is poet, Raj, king of poets. After remaining in Goswami's association for some days, they finally instructed him to return to Godadesh. So he returned, visiting Shrikand, Jaggigram, Kandahar, Kalna on the way. Finally, he came to Mayapur, where he received the blessings of Ishan Thakur, who was one of the personal servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One time, some smarta Brahmanas made a conspiracy to defame the name of Narottam Das Thakur. They were very upset that though he was a Kayashtha by caste, that's a Kshatriya, he accepted those born in the Brahmin family as disciples. So that's what they were criticizing Narottam Das Thakur about. This is the old caste system. So the king there, Raja Nrsimha, who ruled that province, he was always harassed by the Brahmin community in regards to Narottam. So they said to him that Narottam is low-born, yet and he hasn't taken sannyas, and yet he's giving.
No, should not have taken.
Should not have taken sannyas. Oh yes, sorry. And he's accepting disciples of those who are Brahmin by birth. This is against Vedic etiquette, such as Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and Ramacandra Kaviraja. Anyway, yeah, that's not quite right. But anyway, they insisted that the king inflicted a severe punishment on Narottam. So the king, he sent a message to Narottam asking how can a genuine sadhu do all these violations. And Narottam, he sent a letter stating that there was nothing in the scriptures which he's doing against anything against what's in the scriptures. And he was willing to attend a public debate to prove his point. So Narottam said if he is defeated, he's happy to change his ways. So then what happened actually? The king and the scholars, they were actually going to a Keturi where Narottam Das is based. But in the meantime, these two devotees, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and Ramacandra Kaviraj, they devised a clever plan. They decided to, we've talked about this before actually, they decided to disguise themselves as potters on the way. So when the entourage stopped somewhere, these were sellers. They were selling betel nuts. So they set up a shop outside of Keturi, and the king and the men, they stopped there. They wanted to buy some supplies, and they started engaging in some polite conversation. And to the surprise of the scholars, these two shopkeepers were speaking in perfect Sanskrit. And they were amazed at how can these working men be so sophisticated? And if they're so sophisticated, what about the real scholars in Keturi? And in fact, what would Narottam be like? So the king's men, they tried to test these shopkeepers. How knowledgeable are they in the first place? And with ease, these two, Ganga Narayan and Ramacandra, defeated the king's scholars. And they were all very humiliated. And the king, he was told what happened. And he went over to the shopkeepers and he asked them, who are you? So the shopkeepers explained who they were, disciples of Narottam and Srinivas. And then they decided that the Brahmins and the king, they were no longer interested in going forward to Keturi because they realized that if the disciples are like this, what is a master like? But at night, this king, Raja Nrsimha, he had a dream where Durga Mata came to him and said, you've committed a great offense at the lotus feet of Narottam Das Thakur. And as a result of this offense, I will have to cut you all to pieces with this chopper. If you want to save yourself, you better immediately go to Narottam and take shelter at his lotus feet. So when he woke up, he very quickly went to Keturi to meet Narottam Das Thakur, took his shelter with the scholars as well, and they all paid their obeisances to Narottam Das Thakur, asked for forgiveness, and actually became the disciples of Narottam Das Thakur. So this was the cleverness, the genius of Ramacandra Kaviraj. He delivered many sinful atheists, and he was also present at the Keturi festival, one of the first Gaur Punim festival organized by Srinivas Acharya. And it said Narottam Das and Ramachandra were very close as well. Srinivas and Narottam were like god brothers. So Ramachandra was like, Narottam was like the uncle, spiritual uncle of Ramachandra. And there's one song where, does anybody know this song where Narottam Das actually sings, "Oh, Narottam Das always prays for the association Ramachandra Kaviraja." Anybody know that song? We sing it perhaps every day.
Ramachandra Sangha Mange Narottama Das.
Very good, Maji. Well done. Fantastic. That's Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kara More. So the last line is Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das. So Narottam Das has made eternally famous, this Ramachandra Kaviraj. He came to Vrindavan a second time on the order of Srinivas and Narottam, but this time he couldn't have darshan of the Goswamis. They all departed for Golok, Vrindavan. Feeling separation from them, he was very distressed at heart, unable to tolerate that pain. He also joined them in the eternal pastimes in Vrindavan. Ramachandra wrote several books, including Smarana Chamatkar, Smarana Darpana Siddhanta Chandrika Srinivasacharya Jivana Charita. Interesting. In Brij Leela, his name is Karuna Manjari. Some others say Karna Manjari, but and his disappearance is today, the third day of the dark fortnight in the month of Posh. His principal disciple Harinamacharya. The deity is worshipped by Ramachandra and Govind Kaviraj, his brother, had been brought from Jaliya Budargram to Bhagwan Golo, where they are at present being worshipped by the followers of Ram Das Babaji. So these are the three, Srinivas, Narottam, and Shyamananda. And this is the place of, doesn't actually say. This is where his deities will be. Ramachandra Kaviraj's deities. And same here. This is the outside. And these are his deities. Worshipful Gaur Govind, Gopal, deities of Ramachandra Kaviraj and Govinda Kaviraj. Beautiful deities. And this is his samadhi. And I think that is in Vrindavan. And this is the Gopinath temple. So it must be in the Gopinath temple. Okay, Ramachandra Bhagwan, Ramachandra Kaviraj ki jai. Riyansh, yes, have your sloka.
Okay, Prabhuji. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Sreshta Hoy. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy.
And what does it mean? Do you know what it means?
That is from Chaitanya
Yes,
Charitamrita.
yes, Prabhuji, I know the translation.
Go on then.
If 1 minute we take association of devotees, we will be purified.
Yes, even a moment's association with a pure devotee is enough. Well done. Good. Any questions or any comments from this wonderful pastime, Ramachandra Kaviraj ki jai?
Prabhuji,
Yes, Naniman.
after 1500, when not maybe a bit later after that, and all the Goswamis and everybody went back to the Golak Vrindavan.
Hmm.
And what was left after that? Who carried on? Or that was the end, and we are left with the books to study.
Yes. So Jiva Goswami was the youngest. So he left the latest.
Okay.
His disciples were Narottam, Srinivas, Shyamanandan. And then from there, it went, I think, oh, yeah, we've got the book here. There was this Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who's in the Parampara. He was a disciple of, who is a disciple of? Let me just check. So, good question, anyway. So from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 6 Goswamis, Raghunath, Jiva, Krishnadas Kaviraj. Krishnadas Kaviraj. And then he went to Narottam Das Thakur. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's the author of the Mangala Aarti where we sing, Samsara Dava Navalita Loka. And then from him, it's Shiksha into Jagannath Das Babaji, the current deities that we have. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gok Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and then our Srila Prabhupada. And then
Is that lineage, this discipline, is it in the Gita?
yes, it's just after the introduction.
Yes, yes. Okay, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, just after the introduction.
Okay, I will look at that.
But this is a Shiksha line. I think that's something that devotees should be aware of. It's not Diksha in the sense of the disciple sitting in front of the guru and then taking Diksha. That invariably will cause problems because at some point it will break. It will break because, time will destroy it. But Shiksha is where one takes the teachings of the guru and applies them in one's life. And that person becomes your Shiksha guru. And that line cannot be broken as long as you're following the Shiksha of the guru. So that's
Diksha
something.
Guru is the one who gets initiated, isn't who initiates you? Diksha Guru.
That's right. And Shiksha is one. Yeah, go on.
Like people whom we learn, like yourself and on the chat, are they all Shiksha?
Shiksha, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, correct. Diksha is the one who, but this line is not primarily based on Diksha. It's on Shiksha.
Diksha, okay.
Yeah.
Very
You
nice.
have one Diksha Guru, lots of Siksha Gurus.
Yes. Yeah, very nice explained.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question, Nariman. Good point. Anybody else? Otherwise, we can go to the Nishinga Kavach.
Before Mr. What are we doing tomorrow, Prabhuji? We are not doing.
Yes, tomorrow is a very good question. Jayadev Goswami, a very interesting personality. He's, I think, Disappearance Day is tomorrow. So we're going to talk about him. He's written this
The Sartar song.
the Savatar song, which comes from the Gita Govinda. And that book has got incredible pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So we're going to have a look at his life history.
Yes, my last question. Who has written Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Yes.
Krishnadas Kaviraj.
That's what I thought that he was. What we've just done, isn't it?
Krishna Das
No,
Kaviraj.
this is
No,
Krishna
Ramacandra. This is Ramacandra Kaviraj.
Krishna Chandra Kaviraj, yes.
Yeah, Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Krishna Das Kaviraj was Chaitanya.
And Krishna Das Kaviraj was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, something like that. So 6 Goswamis, then Krishna Das Goswami, Krishna Das Kaviraj rather. Let me just have a look at that parampara. Because he's a very important person in our lineage. So we have Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, whose disciple was Narottam Das Thakur,
Okay.
and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Krishna Raj Kaviraj wrote
Chaitanya Charitamrita, yeah.
Krishna Raj.
Krishna
No.
Das.
Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. Thank you for being so inquisitive. It's very good. Thank you. It encourages us, actually.